Making Tax Digital. What is happening now? What should you be doing? Hi, I'm Kimberly Shapcott, qualified chartered accountant, property investor and entrepreneur. Let's sit down and have a chat. Making Tax Digital is coming. Finally, it is actually going to happen, and we know as of the 6th of April 2026 it will be coming for any business whose income, or should I say gross income, so gross rents or gross self-employment, or the two of them put together. So if you're out there thinking, I don't have rental income over that, it doesn't apply to me. If you are also self-employed, you may still fit into that category. You are going to be getting into the Making Tax Digital regime from the 6th of April 2026. Now, what do you actually need to do is going to be the first question we cover. And the key thing here is that you will be having to do quarterly submissions. Now, these quarterly submissions need to be done digitally, so they will need to be done on a quarterly basis. And this is for everyone who is over 50,000. So if your rental income is not up to the 50,000 yet, then you are not in just yet. And we'll come to the other people in a moment. So let's focus on the 50,000 people first. And anyone under this will need to do what we're going to go through now, but at a later date. So the ones that are going to need to be doing it from the 6th of April are over 50,000 rental income, or self-employed, or both. Now, those quarterly submissions are going to be digital, either through software, or you may want to do something like a spreadsheet, Excel, Google Sheets, those sorts of things, but you will need some bridging software to take it from your spreadsheet through to the HMRC portal, where you will need to be submitting things. Now, you will have to do one each quarter, which is a quarter based on the tax year. So with the beginning of the tax year being the 6th of April, we've got April to May to June to July, and your first submission is going to be by the 7th of August. It is always a month after the end of the quarter that you will need to submit by, and they have actually set the date as the 7th of that month following to be in line with the VAT deadlines as well. So this helps if there are VAT registered self-employed or even VAT registered rental properties out there. This therefore means we know that our first deadline for the individuals who have over 50,000 income, or gross income should I say, they are going to have to do their first submission by the 7th of August 2026, and then quarterly after that. Now, what is included in this submission? It is going to be very high level figures. However, the records need to be maintained on a digital framework, so whether it be something like Excel or a software like Hammock or Xero or QuickBooks or whatever other ones are out there. I know there's quite a few Landlord softwares, Landlord Vision and the like. Now, that submission needs to be done quarterly, but unfortunately I can't say that that's the end of it, because then at the end of the year you have to do a final declaration. Now, this final declaration is very similar to a tax return in some ways, but it is going to replace them. So you are no longer going to be in the self-assessment system. You are no longer going to have to do a tax return. However, you will have to do the quarterly submissions followed by a final declaration. The final declaration has the same deadline as your normal tax return would have. However, obviously, because you've been submitting things quarterly, hopefully it's a bit quicker, a bit easier to get to grips with and get everything on there, so it can be done well ahead of the normal 31st of January deadline. So to recap, we have our quarterly submissions, which will be on the 7th of August. Then we will be going forward the next quarter, the next quarter, the next quarter, all the way through to the 5th of April and the final quarterly submission, with the final submission being on the 7th of May for your quarterly submissions, which then means that your next tax return will be due on the 31st of January, on the 31st of January 2028, because we're obviously working on the 26-27 tax year with a 31st of January 2028 deadline. We don't know yet what the penalty regime is if you don't submit the different submissions, but the key thing is, I would say, don't get into that way of doing things. Let's get everything done correctly on time to make sure that you're compliant with the new regulations. Later in the year, I will be having a look at how we do the registration side of things, and on that basis, keep an eye on the channel as we need to get to that point. However, we're not there yet unless you want to be jumping onto the beta testing side of things to see how it all works. Now, one of the things that is relevant is what should you be doing now? And one of the things that I would say you need to be doing now is thinking about getting set up for the 25-26 tax year to have a go at doing some sort of digital records. Now, if this is a spreadsheet, that is great, not a problem, do that, but get set up so that you know exactly what you need to be doing each month, each quarter, so that you've got it set up ready to go. If you find you've got any discrepancies, any oddities, anything that's not quite working, it gives you time to fix this so you can be running smoothly. The ideal option is that you go into some sort of software. Now, I will be showcasing a few different softwares on the channel shortly, and in the coming months I'll be seeing about getting some information on the channel so you can see what other softwares are out there. The one I do really love is Hammock, and that's one of the ones I use for my property portfolio. Now, on that basis, I would suggest thinking about getting something set up soon. And the reason for that is because then that gives you a whole tax year on your given software, which then means if it's not working, you can change software. If you like it, you know what you're doing. So when it comes to doing the actual submissions, it becomes a lot less scary, a lot easier, and you can work with your accountant nice and smoothly to ensure that this is all done on a timely basis so no one is rushing at the deadline to get things sorted. The software itself will be an allowable expense against your rental income, so that will help to reduce your tax a little, especially if you're having to pay for this software. And any additional accountancy charges, again, will be allowable against your rental income. So there will be a bit of tax relief available for any of the additional costs that may be incurred in complying with these regulations. If you work with an accountant, I would advise speaking to your accountant to see what software is their preferred software of choice, so that you can be working smoothly with your accountant rather than choosing an obscure software provider which they don't work with, so they will not be able to support you with that software. Moving forward, it is not just those that are over 50,000 that will need to be included. What we are seeing going forward on the 6th of April 2027 will be that anyone over 30,000 will have to be complying with the regulations as well. So that means anyone who's not in the first bout of logins, of registrations, may come into the second registration round. And obviously these days, with rents at potentially $1,000 a month in some places around the country, we've got 12,000 for one property, 24,000 for two, and we're already up at 36,000 for three properties. So anyone with potentially three properties maybe get caught in the second round, which is obviously not a very large portfolio of properties. Following on from this, we are going to be getting down to the 20,000. However, we've not got any dates on that, but the expectation is that maybe in 2028, 2029, depending when we have an election and how it fits around different other economic events. However, we are expecting the 20,000 to kick in, which again means you only have to have two properties before you're actually kicking into the Makingtaxdigital regulations. By this point though, the process should be a lot smoother, as they will have trialled it and tested it with those over 50,000. The current beta test is refining a few of the different processes, such as registration, the quarterly filing. So hopefully by the time the majority of people are getting in, most of the big issues have been dealt with, and then going into 30,000, 20,000, it will be a relatively streamlined and easy process to get registered and to get filing all the appropriate paperwork that needs to be done. This is quite a fundamental change in how we operate the tax system, so it's just one thing to make sure you're fully aware of how it all fits together. Check out the other videos on Makingtaxdigital over the last couple of years to see how things have moved forward. The original premise is exactly the same, it is just a few niggles and quirks that have adjusted over time. As we find more information out as the beta continues and is live now, we'll update later in the year as we get closer to the actual getting ready day. And as we get into the point where we need to be registering with Making Tax Digital, we will be putting videos out there to make sure you are compliant to get registered and get sorted for your Making Tax Digital adventure. Hopefully this will help streamline your business, and with the right software it can help you manage your portfolio even more easily. The key thing on the software I would definitely suggest is that you can get your bank connected to it, which hopefully makes the actual process of tagging and marking up your data really simple and straightforward. So it's hopefully a 5-minute exercise each month to just make sure everything fits together. So hopefully the whole Making Tax Digital process is actually nothing too cumbersome. But now is the time to be testing how it all fits together for your bookkeeping side of things before you need to be submitting anything to HMRC. As accountants, we've been on a long journey to get to this Making Tax Digital date of actual implementation, as we've been talking about it for probably 5-6 years now, but we now have dates and we now know it is coming. We don't expect any pushback on this going forward now, and we're full steam ahead on getting all our clients ready for this change. So please do make sure you are getting ready for this change and you are discussing this with your accountant so that you ensure that you are in control of the change rather than being thrown in at the deep end last minute. Hopefully today you've got an idea of what you should be doing in regards to Making Tax Digital for you and your property business. If you have any questions, then please do leave a comment. Please like the video and do subscribe to the channel, and let's make tax less taxing. Let's make tax less taxing.